Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pail, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure.
Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I call the John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
What's going on, everybody? Bobby, you got me?
Yep, gotcha.
What's going on, Bobby? What's going on, Garden Report faithful? Those of you here who decided to spend New Year's Eve inside watching the San Antonio Spurs and the Boston Celtics in San Antonio, which I wouldn't blame you if it wasn't a lot of you guys. But hey, maybe those of you around the country, some of you who've already rung in a new year, and I'm sure that's many of you already who normally tune into the Garden Report. Yeah, you got nothing else to do, so why not hang out, talk a little bit of basketball? We'll keep it short tonight and talk a little bit about the game. It's just going to be me and Bobby and kind of just rip through our early observations here of this game. And I mean, really, Bobby, this was make sure you don't pull a Pistons and let's and the Victor Wembanyama show. And you got both of those. You checked both of those boxes.
Yeah, definitely. And you avoided a disaster. Again, I didn't like that second quarter, the start there. I think the Spurs came out shooting 10 of 12, pulled within 4. So that didn't turn into anything. They took quick work of the Spurs in the third quarter. Brown and Tatum both had good nights here. I thought it looked pretty connected throughout the flow of this game, too. I like Brown cutting off Tatum for parts of it. And they both shot well here tonight, 7 of 12. So that pretty much did it. A great shooting night all around for the Celtics here. Probably just about as good as that Clippers and Kings run that they had earlier this month that were the heights of their offensive output this season. But the Spurs put next to no resistance up against them. And that seemed to be a reason why the game started feeling a little bit up and down early, John, is that it was so easy to score on San Antonio, even with Wembanyama out there. I know Zach Collins in this one changes a little bit for them, but this team's bad. I mean, Tatum said on Thursday, I know you weren't on, John, that the Pistons aren't the worst team in the league. As bad as that losing streak was for them, and it came to an end yesterday, he said some other teams at the bottom of the standings.
This is the worst team. Yeah.
And it's this team. Maybe it's Charlotte. Maybe it's Washington's pretty bad too. But those are teams, well, Charlotte aside, that the Celtics rolled through with no resistance. The Pistons put up a great game against them. This was what you would have expected from a team that lost 28 straight games.
Yep. And Happy New Year's to you guys trickling in here. And it's, as we said, nice to have you guys hanging around here and checking in this game. But yeah, look, that's exactly right. You talk about an Ime in his roundabout Ime. Joe in his roundabout way talks about what you do and don't do and what you get and don't get out of bad performances and losses. And he always says weird stuff like, oh, we laughed about it. But the reality is there are lessons learned, which is like, you F around and you find out, you're playing real NBA teams and you want to come out here and you want to not try it all. That's what's going to happen. And the first half looked like it could have gone that way. They were just able to get buckets so easily. And then that third quarter was ridiculous. And then you had that kind of like that string of dunk there between White and Jalen on those steals and the plays there. And it just kind of everything just took off. And, all of a sudden 12, 15 points was friggin' 30 and this game was over.
Yeah, and I feel like if they played faster earlier, they probably could have built a bigger lead, and going double big probably didn't help them with that one with Drew Holiday out in this one. Good to get him some rest. Good to get Brown and Tatum some rest as well this week ahead of what's going to be a pretty tough game against the Thunder on Tuesday. But they figured it out as the game went on. They went to some other lineups. I thought Brissett was pretty good again in this one. He gave them some quality minutes there. The single big lineups with Kornet and even the double big lineups with him out there were pretty good in this one too. So they got a lot out of the bench, and that bench was pretty much what slammed the door early in the fourth, which was huge because you didn't want to see the starters out there at all the way this game was going, and they made sure that you didn't have to do that. Hauser back with 3 of 5 from 3. Kornet building on the 20-point performance, John, that you coincidentally missed. You had to sit out that show, but he made sure to come through with another quality performance here in this one.
Yeah,
And
but
Pritchard-
again, let's be real. I mean, I love Luke and what is his hands, right? I like Luke's hands. I like that he can catch passes in the paint. I like that he can play volleyball when it's up high. I like that he knows where to be. I like his positioning in general. I like all of those things. But I mean, even a team like the Spurs took it to him on like 8 or 9 straight possessions. It's always going to be the push and pull, the yin and the yang, which I'm fine with because I've been arguing this for years. If the good outweighs the bad, or the good gets you something that is beneficial, you can live with the bad. If Luke Kornet could do everything and play defense and block shots and rebound, he'd be making $25 million a year and playing 30 minutes a night. But he can't. He can do these things relatively well. Neemias Queta does different things relatively well. I don't think it's necessarily an either or. I think it's more of a pick your poison sort of situation here. Every time Luke is going in there, like, sure, he can challenge a shot or two, but for the most part, people go after him, and eventually he gets played off the floor because of his because defensively he gets attacked a little bit and he can't really do much about that. So that's always going to be there. But that stuff that he's doing, and like he and D White have a great little pick and roll game going, and the lobs and catching it. And like I said, his ability to collect bounce passes in the paint, a lot of bigs can't do that. That's really like coordinated stuff for a guy that height to be able to collect and to go up. Horford can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's a skill. It's a legit skill.
Yeah, and he's getting on the boards a little bit now too with 3 offensive rebounds in this one. So all in all, good stuff from him right now. It's nice to have him back in the rotation and able to let them go double big a little bit. And I did write about that over the weekend, is that those lineups are actually producing at a pretty good rate right now. All of them, actually. Porzingis and Horford came into this game +7. You had that little Kornet Porzingis run in this game, which was, up close to 20, I think, 17, even though it was only 10 minutes of their playing time together. You've seen Queta and Al play well together. You've seen Kornet and Horford win minutes together. I think they're +3. So every double big lineup that they're putting out there is winning. You might not like how it looks, might slow them down a little bit at times, but it's their go-to look when they're down a starter. And
it is, but again, by comparison, their starting lineup playing single big with that is the best.
Oh yeah,
lineup. They obviously the best they have, but the best in basketball by far.
No, I'm a long way past advocating for Horford.
Yeah,
John. But
right.
My point was, this season where we thought if they were down a starter, it's going to get really shaky really fast. The double big combinations have allowed them to at least win their minutes in games like these. And
right.
In a game like this, you're going to blow the other team away. But even against some tougher teams, you're able to win those minutes there, which is important. They have a bunch of different looks that they can go to. The question you're going to have to ask is, if you're in a playoff series against a bigger team that's hurting you on the boards, and that was the case big time in that Thursday game, John. I mean, just an absolute beatdown on the offensive glass from Detroit in that game. Do you go to some bigger looks in that spot to counteract what the other team's doing, or are you just going to roll with what you're doing? They're probably just going to roll with what they're doing, as you mentioned there, because it's been so dominant all year and they have so many different skill sets in their starting lineup there. I thought they really missed Holiday defensively for parts of this game.
They do, because he's super important there. I think we got into we got into Kornet a tad earlier than I wanted to. I want to backtrack. If we're going to talk about individual performances, the number one takeaway is they played together in that third quarter when they needed to. They put their foot on the gas and they distanced themselves, and they did what they're supposed to do with a team like this, which is great. On the individual performances, I'm again going to look at Brown. This was so economical and efficient in what he was doing. And again, another game where I just felt like he was doing the right thing. He didn't settle for weird stuff. A couple of times I can't remember who he did, backing his way into the post and just spinning around guys for dunks who were just like, they're like, I can't guard this guy here. Whoever it was like, this is impossible. I can't do this. And stuff like that is just great because it's just imposing your physical will on an opponent.
in a different way than Jalen's done it in the past, which is usually, let me just fly through, get into the lane, and whatever's waiting for me there, I'll deal with it when I get there. This was I'm going to just back a guy down, ISO this, get my way all the way in, and then I'm just going to work. It is so hard to stop that when he does that. And it's controlled and it's patient. And he did it multiple times tonight, either resulted in spinning around and getting a dunk or a layup, or being able to get one of those turnarounds from the post, which for him is just a money shot.
Yeah, and I thought was really good in Friday's game as well. I came out of it pretty conflicted because of the 7 turnovers, because of some of the miscues there. But when you consider Tatum's out, you're going against a team that has some weird, funky defensive abilities and personnel that can play bigger and pack the paint against you. It was one of those games where we've talked about, John. Yeah, the turnovers might tick up a little higher than you want them to, but his aggressiveness really opens things up, especially late in that game after the Raptors came back. So I loved him that night. I loved his whole month. The numbers, I have them right in front of me here, don't look amazing. Like nothing that would like catch your eye on paper. 24, 5, and 4, not including this game. But 53 from the field, getting up to 37 from 3 this month. Back to the free throw line quite a bit too. That's exactly what you were looking for from him in this offense, because it was going to look different this year. Maybe a little bit of a smaller role, sometimes fewer shots, but the control, as you mentioned, the decision making, and the consistency, really. Like, you're not seeing him have those games where he's uninvolved for quarters at a time, or a night where he's just lost in the shuffle because other guys have it going. It seems like the hierarchy's pretty well set on this team. I just think
he's making the right decision more often. It's as simple as that. I just think he's choosing wisely, like way more. And a lot of it is, what's funny is, old Jalen to me was, hey, to counteract Tatum's sleepy, walk it up the floor stuff, like Jalen was the guy who would attack and get it and go and so be instant offense in that way, and just drive the paint when you weren't getting a lot of paint looks and when people were settling for jumpers, and Jalen would be the guy who would go, and then you would have to manage his turnovers there, because you'd say, well, that's it, he's going fast. And maybe that's what happened a little bit more last game without Tatum, where he felt he had to do more on his own. Or was the last game without Tatum?
Yep, Raptors.
Yeah, sorry. So maybe that's where he kind of did a little too much. But when he's playing in the kind of, the setup that they have here with the multiple starters when Tatum's on the floor, I actually find that what's better is him slowing it way down. And he's playing with a lot more patience and a lot more poise. When he doesn't have it, he sets it back up. He lost the dribble one time going to the basket, and he just collected himself rather than just kept going and rose up and tried to make a really high degree of difficulty shot. I think that's what he's doing more of, is he's doing that. He's not just like, screw it, I'm here, I'll just shoot it and see what happens. He's passing out of those difficult situations a lot more than he was before, whether it results in anything or not. I know he had this super high potential assist number the other night too, but again, I didn't watch those games. I just kind of followed the box scores there. Just from tonight, like I said, it just looks patient. It was an incredibly efficient night for him in terms of his scoring. I mean, he's very, very economical in everything that he did.
Yeah, and when you combine that, some of the defensive flashes from this first half of this year before we flip into 2024, and then tonight, you mentioned him being sometimes that more aggressive, faster end of the team's identity compared to Tatum's more methodical approach. I liked how they were able to do both in this game. Tatum able to set himself up for jump shots when necessary. Brown able to get ahead in that third quarter, as you mentioned, with all the dunks and breakout scores and even the isolations on guys in the post. I mean, those were there for the taking. We've seen Tatum take those. We've seen Porzingis take those, and he was weirdly off in this game.
I kind of wanted to see him dominate the original unicorn versus the Wemby. I wanted them to show the whippersnapper.
Those guys were going at each other and just completely canceling each other out.
But he came in a little cold, and that was too bad. I wanted to see him, do a little something there. It didn't happen.
Yeah, and he finished this month 32% from 3, which he was red hot to start the year from outside. You'd like to see him get that back up next month. But still, most efficient post player in the league through the first stint of the schedule here. You see Brown pulling that out, Tatum. it's just a nice, well-balanced
The
offense
entire
right
team,
now.
the entire team in the post, Bobby. I mean, we begged for that, right?
Yeah.
Like we begged for that.
It's a way to get paint or post shots off because they never do it. When they're driving, they're always kicking. They'll get out in transition sometimes, but they're not a very fast team. So figuring out ways this season to counteract the bad three-point shooting when it happens. And, I do want to look at what the record is on their bad three-point shooting nights. And I feel like it's going to be much better than it was a year ago when they went 13-19 in those nights where they shot below average. 36 in this one, so you're right about average. But on the nights where they haven't shot well from three, you have the offensive rebounding, you have the post-ups, and you have the transition game to counteract the bad shooting. And that's why they've been able to start 26-6 here. When I had Law Murray on last week, John, before the Clippers game, he put it well. This team's lost 6 games, and 5 of them were in crunch time. So it's just a few late game miscues, some games where Derek White was out and the offense got a little scattered, or leads that they blew where they're losing these games. Otherwise, they could be through 32 games here, 31-1, if they just handle some of those late game situations better. So that's the kind of start we're seeing here. It's just amazing how they're taking care of business because they would lose that Pistons game a year ago. They would have lost any
That
number
happened
of games
early in the year too,
games.
Bobby. But how many games, Bobby, at the beginning of the year did we say they lose this game last year? They lose this game last year. The Heat, the one where where Jalen had that meltdown and they went all the way to down 7 and came back and won that game. They had a lot of games where they blew leads and still won them, or they were in crunch time. I think in the first 10 games, the first 10 wins, there were 5 games where we're like, that game might go different last year. They've had quite a few of those. So they're much better at this stuff, and they do avoid those like, oh my God, I can't believe you lost this games. I left this comment up here because I wanted to say, A, I love the vacation reference, and 2, because of this movie and because of that scene, our coach, our all-star coach, when we were like 12, 13, the truck he would take us in, his big SUV, we called it the Family Truckster, and our name for our team became the Trucksters for this particular reference, because that's what we did. We went around. So we were the Trucksters. We were that. Yes. Big Money Brown. Thank you guys for any and all super chats. We do appreciate it. Again, letting you guys know we're going to hang here for, a short-ish show. We're hanging for a bit. More people are flooding in the room, so we'll try to hang out here for a little bit longer and give you guys your money's worth. You've decided to spend the time with us, so we'll hang out here with you guys as well. Have to let you guys know, as always, about our sponsors. Number 1, FanDuel. You know about it. If you're into this and you want to get involved, there's no better place to do it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network, also the official partner of the NFL. Fantasy season is over. Bobby and I, work league, we didn't do anything. I won 1 championship this year, lost another. 2 first-round exits. All in all, not a terrible year. But if you do want to get in and bet on some actual games here as the NFL is winding down, final week and into the playoffs, FanDuel.com/Boston, $150 in bonus bets when you place a winning $5 money line bet. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Go ahead and check it out. What else am I looking for here? I'm looking for Amit. Find it for me. I can never find it.
HelloFresh?
I'm looking for HelloFresh.
Right here.
Bingo. We want to tell you quickly about HelloFresh. We're into the new year. This is actually a perfect opportunity for anybody who wants to kind of change their diet, New Year's resolutions, different things that you might want to try here. You can get on, low-carb diets, low-calorie diets, protein, keto, gluten-free if that's your thing. But whatever you want to do, you want to customize your diet. A great way to do it is just to have, because you're going to know, you want sub 600 calorie dinners, you can get that here at HelloFresh. If you just go to HelloFresh.com/CLNS free, I'll tell you what the free is about in a minute. Sign up, customize your meal, sent to your door, farm fresh ingredients, little menu cards, everything's portioned out. Boom. put it together. You're done. Restaurant quality meal for half the price in like 15 minutes. It's really worth it. Go to HelloFresh.com/CLNS free and you will get free breakfast for life. That means every time you order a HelloFresh box, if you use this promo code, you're going to get breakfast along with it, some breakfast items. It's actually a pretty cool deal. So again, check it out, HelloFresh.com. It's a really good time of year to maybe think about doing something like this. So again, HelloFresh.com/CLNS free. Back to the game, Bobby. What else stood out for you here tonight? And I do want to talk about Wemby a little bit. I wish Jimmy was here because Jimmy is not a Wemby guy.
Yeah.
I am not a Wemby guy. I don't know that. I believe he could be the chosen one. I also believe he could be good, not great. I'm not sure which way he's going to go, but boy, do you know, is he different in so many different ways, right? Like
Dunk stood out, didn't it?
That freaking play when White's going for a chase down and every Celtics fan's thinking, oh my God, is he going to do it? And he's a step outside the 3-point line. He just holds the ball up, takes two steps. Oh my! I watched that 100 times. I fell so far behind the rest of the game. I just kept going back to watch that. It was like it's like playing on the dunk hoop that's hanging on the door frame in your bedroom. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers for them. Obviously, this game shows they are not a good defensive team. I think they're last in net rating. Their defense is way down there. But when he's on the floor, they're pretty competent. And there were plays at times in this game where the Celtics had to go inside and work their way out, again, because of his presence in there. So in terms of being the real deal, defensively, he is. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He just has too much range, too much size in there, and too much of an ability to alter shots all over the floor to not be a game changer on that side of the ball. But the offense is definitely a work in progress here. 44% for the field coming into today. He got a few threes to go, but he's 28. I think you kind of expected that wasn't going to be there for him, and it's really not. So that's a big difference between him and even a guy like Chet right now, who we're going to see on Tuesday.
That's the thing. I want to see. You got to give it a full year to see how that goes. Because here's the thing with him, and I think that the indicator with someone like that is always like, there's nothing mechanically wrong with his shot. It's just not. But that was an issue before too, is it wasn't falling in Europe either. Like that's exactly what he shot at 28%, 29% playing overseas. Those were the numbers. It really wasn't or where did he play last year?
France.
The France, right. That's what he shot. So, but like all you see are Twitter highlight reels and all of those shots go in. And then you look at the numbers heading into the draft and I was like, wow. I was like, that's pretty bad considering he's just shooting. Those are practice jumpers for the most part. He's shooting over the top of nobody there. But look at the free throw percentage. He's up around 80% this year. So he's got the stroke. That thing's going to start falling with more regularity. It looks like a good shot. I don't believe that's going to be who he's going to be forever, but there's definitely concerns, right? Like, is he going to, can he affect the game down low? He needs probably 30 pounds of muscle to be able to do that. What's that going to do to other aspects of his game? It's going to be weird, but like he can handle the ball. His passing is otherworldly. And again, the things that he can do just based off his height puts him in it's almost like this isn't a great analogy, but remember we were arguing with Rob about what he can't do and neglecting what he can do better than any human on the planet. Like there's probably 3-4 things that Wembanyama is going to be able to do better than anybody on the planet. That's going to separate him and it's going to make his flaws matter less. And that's where his greatness is going to come from. Like he might not ever end up doing some of the things people think he needs to do, but I don't know that it's going to matter because he can do so many other things. And when he puts it together, like he might be great, but I still don't know. I know everyone's saying Chet is better this year. But again, you got to factor in he's 25 games into his pro career.
Yeah, Chet had the chance to bulk up last year and be in the organization and all that.
That's why the rookie stuff is bullshit. He's been in a professional environment with training the right way for a year plus. He's going to be different.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And a little bit older, too, obviously. Yeah. Wembanyama coming in at, I think 19 right now. But you mentioned 3 blocks a game. That's game-changing stuff right away at that age. Like, anybody having 3 blocks a game would be unbelievable, and he's doing it his rookie year. So he's probably the front runner for this Rookie of the Year award. It's going to be a fun race between he and Chet, but this is a great starting point.
He's not a rookie. I agree. He's not a rookie. Chet.
You would have been thrilled if you were the Spurs to see him come in and set the world on fire and be one of the best players in the league right away. But the fact that he's one of the best young players in the league is good enough, I think, for now. And, he's scoring 18, 19, 20 points a game without the ability to handle. He's got a 3-3-3 turnover assist thing right now, which isn't great. He doesn't have a point guard, which is just malpractice.
Imagine if he did. How many frigging just automatic?
They don't have a point guard. It's crazy. Were you watching that offense tonight?
It's ridiculous. How many lobs? How many easy buckets? He'd have 6 to 8 more points a game in just standing by the rim and just dropping it in.
Imagine if they had Derek White.
The ball to him. Yeah.
Oh man, they must be regretting that right now. I mean, it's a bad spot. You can make the Belichick comparison right now too. I think with Popovich and the way that's going right now. And they're 5-26, John. It's unreal. I know their roster's not great and they're in their rebuilding stage right now, but that's horrible. I mean, there were some people who thought they might be able to make a little bit of a playoff run this year. I didn't, but this isn't even close right now.
I still think this guy's worth the price of admission. Again, what he's going to become,
you might have to get a credential when they come in a month.
I think I'm gonna go. I really want to see it in person. I really do. Sorry whoever I bump from the game, but sometimes I want to. Sometimes I want to. Hey, I want to give a shout out here because this is very nice and very generous. And we got a couple games ago when I was in here, and we've gotten a few of these roll in. I really do appreciate these, and thank you very much, Derek, for watching. The contribution is nice. The most important thing is that you guys are here, and we do appreciate the numbers and the viewership and the loyalty and you guys hanging with us. There's a lot of options out there, and I'm sure you partake in more than just one, but so many of you are just regular faces here on the Garden Report, and we see you and we know who you are, and we do appreciate it, and everything like this is appreciated, though not necessary, but thank you very much. Favorite Celtics moment of 23, if you wanted to talk about this. Bobby, I don't know. I don't have it off the top of my head. Anything for you?
Come on, it's easy. The Derek
Is it
White
Luke Knight?
No, and Luke Knight was up there.
It's
obviously,
not Luke Knight.
Obviously, you guys were pretty stunned, but that Bulls game was a really fun one for me recently. But for the whole year as a whole,
it's got to be Derek.
Game 6. It's that game 6 where I went back and watched it a week or two ago because we talked a little bit about it on my pod, but it still doesn't feel real, that moment there. Like, it was just one of those moments you're going to remember forever. I know they didn't pull it off, and some people might forget about it when, 10 years go by or whatever here because they didn't get it done. But it was just still so special, so unique. Like, there's really not a moment that compares to that, especially when you consider it almost completing a 3-0 comeback. It did force the Game 7. There's some other good ones. Throughout that playoff run. Tatum's Game 7 against Philly was pretty amazing. You had the turnaround in Game 6 for him too in Philly. That whole last regular season was pretty fun too. There were a lot of fun Joe moments along the way too.
Well, what if we were isolating only this? Because you're right. There's so much of last year. What you always forget is the majority of 23 was last year. It's the majority of it. So you're always thinking for this year.
And there were a lot of bad moments, unfortunately, in the playoffs for them last year. But this part of the year, I mean, it's been nothing but good. And this season, John, I'm still kind of settling into what this season is and what it's becoming and, how we're going to look at it. But most of it's just kind of been taking care of business. There hasn't been any dazzling comebacks or unbelievable clutch finishes or, there were a few moments that certainly pissed us off here or there, but when you have expectations as high as this team does and the talent that this team does, a lot of it so far has just kind of felt like, all right, they did it again. Now do it tomorrow. And they more often than not have done it again tomorrow. So there's kind of a mellowness to that kind of season. eventually they're going to get tested in the playoffs. Eventually they're going to have those moments that really have a lot of turbulence and debate and stuff like that behind them. But right now it's just been smooth sailing. And I think a lot of people like that because we certainly have seen the turbulence since we started this show.
Yep.
So it's good to not have that.
It's better. And that's the thing is like, and so like, I guess, you know, and we've, Deflategate here. Thank you for the contribution. We've talked about doing a game. We may at some point do one or two games. The reason we don't, I just think it'd be overkill. We're on here for so long after. If we're doing the games as well, I think you guys are going to get sick of us, to be honest. But
we'll let Drew Carter handle that.
But every once in a while it's fun because the way we react live is totally different than, you know, what you're getting after the game. And it is kind of more organic to get it in the moment. And also, you know, we would kind of chat about things as we go along. So I would totally do that as well. But to your point, Bobby, what you were talking about before, live stream, Nick's always wanted to live stream those games. I'm not kidding. The reason I guess I keep coming back to it, it's not meant to sound like a, you know, it's not an I told you so. It's not. It's just, why do we, like, if everyone watching this year's team can recognize, you talk about the ups and downs, Bobby, and the way we react to things and this and that. If everyone can watch this year's team and be like, like, this is great. Like, I love what we're seeing here. They're connected. The guard play, the defense, the effort, the different people scoring on different nights, all of these things. Like, if you're seeing that and saying how great it is, you have to remember a little bit that, like, that wasn't, like, happening regularly, right? Like, that's kind of the thing is, like, there were things wrong and things that probably were so wrong that they were never going to be right. And that's kind of why we react the way we react sometimes to things is I don't believe it was ever going to get better with the people that they had in place here. And I think that they needed to make changes. And that's kind of why we, you know, why we're kind of all over the map sometimes in our analysis of these teams. And like, now you see it and it's like, and again, I'm not saying it's a referendum on Smart.
The guys who are
like,
gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just them. I honestly didn't, I'm still dubious that Tatum still worries me a little. If he ever feels like he's got to be that alpha guy, I think they can win like I think it's better as an ensemble cast than it is, you know, Tatum and his running mates or whatever. Like, I don't like that team because I don't think he's that guy. I think he does a million things well, but I think it works better in an ensemble cast in a complementary way. And that's what I like about this. I never wanted a team where Tatum would just carry it and you had other supporting players. Like, I don't think that's who they need to be. And I don't think he's necessarily that guy. So I do get a little bit worried still if it's going to revert to that. But anyway, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, there's obviously three things at play. Have Tatum and Brown advanced enough to the point where they can carry them to a championship? I still think you wonder about that. Did Porzingis solve some of their most fatal flaws? I think he's done that to some degree, but they've also been able to win without him.
Thank you for the contribution. We'll address. We're kind of addressing this now, but we'll talk about it as well. But go ahead, Bobby.
And then number three, as you mentioned, the missing pieces or the pieces who have left. I don't think there's any doubt, as much as we love Smart and as much as he was important here, I do think they have benefited from not having him out there in crunch time. And they could have done that when he was here. They could have pulled him out of those situations because of how it impacted the offense. But they weren't able to for one reason or another, for coaching or, you know, ego or just a hierarchy or whatever it might have been. So just removing him from the picture might have had some benefits alongside those two other things there. And then, you know, we've been debating all year, John, about Grant and that one, which, you know, he was out there last year. He had some massive ups and downs, and he was a significant part of the rotation until Joe pulled him out of it. And then they were trying to figure out how to work out the bench from that point on. The bench this year, it's really been the most pleasant surprise.
Hasn't it?
Far. I mean,
they
had a couple rocky games early on, John, and then they figured it out like a week or two into the season, and it feels like they've played good as a unit every single game since. It's unbelievable. Like, how many shows have we done where we were like, man, the bench killed them tonight? We don't do it.
It's not just the bench. You're right, though. The thing is, though, I don't know whether the bench holds up in the playoffs, and when it doesn't, or if it doesn't, everyone's going to be like, "Uh-oh." So I'm a tad worried the bench is a little bit of fool's gold because I don't think you're going to go there. I think their limits. Excuse me. I think you go obviously tight playoff rotation for sure, and the minutes are going to be very,
But one
very,
guy
very
has
limited.
to step up.
Yeah.
Is it Pritchard? Hauser's been good pretty much every game all year. Is he a playoff guy? Because remember, he
I
didn't play
don't
in the
know.
playoffs at all last year.
I don't know. I think a little, but I think Hauser's going to be a guy where he's in there and he goes 0 for his first 3 and he doesn't get second half minutes. Like that's not going to surprise me. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, he might, but I think he'll be limited to like 8 and 9 minutes in the playoffs. So I don't know what's going to happen here because I know they really only trust 6 guys and then they have to play others, but it might be quick and I don't know what you're going to get there. What I will say is like the most pleasant surprise is actually not pleasant surprise is that this team can be carried by any of 5 players on any given day. And like, I don't think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world to say. And I said it on our text thread the other day, Bobby, that like you can make arguments that Derek White's the most impactful player on this team. You can make an argument that Kristaps Porzingis is the most impactful player on this team. I know it sounds like blasphemy because, you've got Tatum and you've got Brown and the way Brown's been playing.
Right?
But it might be Derek White. But the counter to that is, could Derek White be that impactful if he didn't have the gravity of Tatum and Brown sucking all that attention away from him because he can operate more freely? Probably not. So you're not going to minimize what Tatum and Brown do, but those guys are so good, they can carry a team. And to have that many of those guys on your team is insane right now.
Yeah, and he's up over 5 assists a game this year, which, we talked to his trainer over the summer, and they said that was a goal, have the most assists of his career, given what he's playing around here. And they've allowed him, we saw it early in the preseason, John, and even open the season a little bit. They allow him to be the point guard. And over the last 3 games coming into this, they closed out those games against the Lakers, Detroit, and Toronto by letting him run the offense late. In fact, Joe said as much after the Detroit game where Tatum wasn't very good. The key to Tatum's game that night, and we had a big debate, John, on the show. You weren't there. Did Tatum have a good game or not? I gave him a lot of credit for getting out of the way and letting White run the show.
Yeah.
I know
you got crap for basically kind of backhanded complimenting Tatum of like, you're not the guy right now. Let this guy do it instead, right?
No, but he was out spacing the floor in the corner, and Derek
sure.
said after they're gonna, they're not just gonna leave him. So he was able to run pick and roll with Porzingis, and they won the game late after being down by 21. Same thing against Toronto, and there were 2 big finishes by him late in that game, John, in a clutch scenario. That was their 11th clutch win this year.
And I agree, Cass. I wanted to put this up. That's kind of what I said is that they don't get everyone else isn't defended or treated or doesn't get the attention of Tatum and Brown. So it's unfair to just look at it in a vacuum. I agree. I did kind of say this, but I agree 100%. You can look at Derek White and say he's playing better than these guys, but would he be able to do it if he didn't have, if he's getting doubled and all of these things? Probably not, but I still think he'd make all the right decisions all the time, the way that he does.
And so, the most cliche argument right now is always an all-star, send him to the game. And that might happen. It might not. I've said when we actually have the discussion, I don't know if he's the kind of guy you go to the all-star game to see, which isn't a knock on him. I mean, like, I'm the biggest Al Horford fan in the world, and you don't go to the all-star game to see Al Horford either. But it is a nice recognition. And when you look at a guy's career and you see, all-star 2023, you're reminded of some of the stuff he did in the first half of this year. And the stuff he's doing now, I mean, I just threw my hands up, John, when he hit those 2 shots in the lane against Toronto late and sealed that game. I'm like, he's an all-star. I mean, like, you just put that whether it's the numbers, whether it's the impact, whether it's the defense, he's right up there with any other guard in the East right now. And he just seems to get better every night. He seems to do more with each passing night. 7 of 11 in this one, 5 assists, 17 points, 0 turnovers. I mean, he's just perfect. And, we were on the air when they first traded for him. And I think our first reaction was this might be their point guard. And that didn't happen for a while.
Well, what
but
we
it's
said
happening
is
now.
he might make Marcus Smart superfluous. It
And
just
that
ended
too,
up
yeah.
it ended up happening later. And
But
that's
it's amazing. I mean, this is what he's capable of when he's empowered, when he's playing confident. You look back on last year, John, I think we talked about this off the air. He only played in about half of their crunch time games last regular season. And then in the playoffs, he only played in 6 of their 11 clutch finishes. And it blew my mind when I pulled it up on Christmas. He took 1 shot in crunch time last postseason. 1. I mean, they might have cost themselves a championship by not using him enough. It's unbelievable to look at. Unfortunately, that has not happened this year. You never have any doubt about whether he's going to start or whether he's going to finish a game. But when we were kicking things around at the beginning of the year, John, he would have been the easy guy to put on the bench. And we all were like, no way. It can't be him. Like, Drew Holiday would have been a better fit on the bench. As much as we got angry about that, White had to start. And then, they sent Horford there, and that ended up being the right call. But, oh, man, it's crazy to think about. If he was playing like this last year, it could have been a whole different season.
Yes. Yep, you're right. It took a while.
Joe admitted it too. He said that was my biggest coaching flaw last year, was not going to him.
He couldn't figure it out, and you just said it, and like you were talking about catching crap in the last post game for saying Tatum, stepping out of the way and letting D White take control. But it's like that's kind of it. Is like it took a while to get the ball out of Tatum's hands. It's basically what happened. It didn't matter who. Last year you had 3 freaking point guards, and you're still running Tatum ball offense, in the last 6 minutes of games. And this is why leads are getting pissed away and they're slowing down and playing, prevent and running out the clock. And like everything got disjointed and teams knew exactly what was happening, and they would wait and then they'd start to move towards the basket and the double would come, or he'd get blitz, pass out of it to somebody who would have to shoot some moon ball, down. And like that was their late game offense because they were just reliant on it. It felt like way too much. And yeah, take the ball out of his hands, give it to the point guards, give it to Derek White, let him run the show. Like he's making the right decision. He keeps the thing we like best about him, even when shots weren't falling, is he keeps it moving, right? It's constantly moving when he's out there. Even if he's not the guy who's ball dominating, dribbling around, looking for people, he's moving it always, always, always. And that doesn't happen with everybody.
Yeah, and we've had that conversation since the Warriors game about how much they need to move and run and pass and all that different stuff, and you're seeing it more now. I thought this was another good game for the ball movement, just working the plays around the perimeter, inside out. You're starting to see more of that now. And Joe even admitted after the West Coast trip that they had to reinvent the offense a little bit out west. And we saw it in the results. We saw it in the way they played. But we also saw that it was getting stale earlier in the year, right? There was a lot of ISO ball. They were succeeding at it, but then it started to regress a little bit as the schedule went along. They were seeing massive shooting success early. That came back to earth a little bit, so that wasn't there to prop them up. And then, of course, you had the post-ups in the transition game, which aren't always there either. But they needed more assists. They were bottom 5, 10 in assists. The ball wasn't really moving. I think they were like 28th in passes overall, 27th. So they needed to shake up the offense a little bit. And that was part of what Joe talked about in training camp, was that, you're going to have to find ways to keep things fresh a little bit as the regular season goes along. And now it seems to be this pace attack that they're going with right now. And listen, no one's on this team, John, is going to be like, Jason plays too slow. We need him to play faster. Get with the offense, blah, 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 like we do here. But you have heard everybody say, all to and including Joe, we got to play faster, get into your spacing quicker, get into your sets quicker. Derek White said that they actually had a conversation as a team about getting into their sets with 19 on the shot clock, by the time 19 is there on the shot clock. So they talked about all this stuff out west. This isn't us, yammering along about them trying to play faster here. They're trying to figure it out too, and it's happening pretty naturally. As much as we give Jalen crap here sometimes about his deficiencies, the one thing he's always been great at is speeding them up. And Al said that at shoot around on Thursday. Like he plays with an infectiously fast style. Like he said, when Jalen was running the floor, I'm starting to run a little bit more. Drew's starting to run. Derek all the way down the line. And so, you notice that they weren't doing that when he was out against the Pistons. He comes back. They do it a little better against the Raptors. And then tonight, I thought the pace was fantastic.
Fantastic. No question about it. Oh, pardon me. Sorry. Something just popped on my screen, started playing loudly. I didn't know if it got picked up there. So yeah, it's great. He's great. Brown has been great. Tatum, it's funny. He's still figuring it out. And when he has efficient, better shooting nights, tonight he was hitting those shots, but when those shots don't fall and you have that 11 for 31, that's still going to be the issue. I think if you're talking about issues going into the new year, Bobby, I think you feel pretty good about everybody's role in here. What's funny is we were curious how Jalen would react. I think we've all kind of settled in on curious how Tatum's going to play within the construct of what's going on right now. It's not bad, but I think he can get better. I think we do spend a lot of time. I think it's always been a default to talk about everything Tatum does and keep saying he's getting better, whether or not he's actually getting better. There's no doubt that Jason Tatum can do almost anything. It's just a matter of doing it consistently with this team and do that whole give the game what it needs sort of thing. Nothing is a knock on Tatum. It's choices. What choices is he making? Is he going to kind of get it? Is he going to go into stop the ball mode on offense and I got to get mine? Is he going to keep relying on the pull up and just, shrug his shoulders when it doesn't fall and, be happy, puff his chest out when it does? Because to me, that's lack of understanding of what's working and what you're best at and what you should be doing. So I think his evolution is really more up here. Is he going to kind of fully figure out what's the best thing for me with this team right now to use my vast skill set to take us to even a higher level than they are? Because what's funny is I actually do think there's yet another level. They can ho-hum their way through some friggin' blowouts here, and they're just ripping up a $120 every night, every time they go out. I think there's another level they can reach too, which I think is insane. And a lot of it comes down to Tatum.
Yeah, and what's his best role going to be in this offense? We see him in spots that look really good as a screener, posting up, certainly playing ahead of the offense, and I think that's where he's been at his best sometimes over the last 2 years here in this offense, as Joe's try to speed things up and shake open this offense a little bit. So you're always torn here, right? Because he has game-breaking skills that really tear open the game when he's able to get to them. If we sat here, John, and said, don't take any more pull-up threes, don't ISO anymore, don't do all that stuff, we wouldn't have had that, Game 7 against Philly and just some of these other great moments that we've seen from him. Game 6 against the Bucks, the comeback there in that series. These are the kind of game-breaking skills that make him who he is. At the same time, you see them leave him with empty performances sometimes when he tries to go to those and they're not there. So it really is about decision-making and feel and knowing when to get aggressive in those areas and when to, back off and let some other guys do stuff, because he has a lot of teammates right now that can do different things that he might be weak at in certain spots here. So I think he's relatively good when we compare him to the other stars around the league about realizing that and making that call. But it does get frustrating sometimes, especially the Warriors game and even a couple others in recent weeks here. Him deciding to go versus, let some other guys do things. Even, I thought he looked so bad in that Detroit game. And he comes to the podium after and he's like, yeah, my ankle's really swollen and painful. And it's like, why'd you play? And then he sits the next game. So, just the decision-making there with him, it has to get a little bit better. And he started this year so well. I feel like the last couple of weeks here, shots fell in this game. The Clippers game, shots fell, and they just blew those teams away. But then in the other games where he took the
Yeah.
same approach and the shots didn't fall, it didn't look as good.
Yeah.
So
And
something's
I-
missing right now there.
a little bit, and I want to agree with this point. I've always thought this. I've never thought. I think some people say things like Tatum just wants his stats, and Tatum. I've never thought that. I've always thought that Tatum knows Tatum wants to win. He takes it seriously, but the thing he's always known to do best is to kind of go into Kobe mode and score a bunch. And that's how he affects games. Doesn't mean he can't affect it in a million different ways, but I always feel like that's kind of the thing is like, this is what I think I like. I want to cook. And to do that, I got to do some of that difficult shit. But sometimes it doesn't go. And when it doesn't go, and we have so many other people out here who can do other things, it's detrimental to the team. And like, should I not do that? Like Tatum looking for it and trying to get hot on last year's team or 2 years ago's team is essential. It's just not now. So it's really more of a change of like looking around you. And again, guys, you gotta chill. It's not hate. You're talking about a team trying to get to an elite championship level and talking about your elite player raising his game up to elevate everyone else around him. It is not hate. It is, you are playing for a very, you just got to stop being so sensitive about this stuff. You're playing for a title and only a title. And if it doesn't happen, it's because they fail to reach their level for some reason.
And listen, John, we don't want to be sitting here in May if they lose and hear all the chat saying Joe and Drew shot bad and Hauser was bad tonight. It's on him. It's on him and Brown. They have to play at a level and a consistency that's going to carry you to the championship, and that requires being good on almost every night. And you can't have the biggest problem with them is we've gotten to the playoffs and we've seen them all, Tatum's off tonight or, Brown got lost tonight and they lost. And all of a sudden this 5-game series is going 6, or you went down early in this Heat series where you probably should have won. And it's that lack of consistency. And, we've kind of made fun of them when they've been like, we just didn't have it tonight. It was about Brown and Tatum not having it in those nights.
Yeah. Again,
and so now you really have a roster here where there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. That's the thing is like, and as somebody put it up here earlier, and I threw up the comment, everyone else is going to do their part. You feel very confident in it. There's no, yes, Holiday, White, Porzingis are going to have good games, bad games. Every night they go out there, they're going to play their role. They're going to do what they're supposed to do every night to varying degrees of success. But right now, to very high levels of success because they're all playing extremely well. And Brown, again, post ESPN graphic, is playing the best basketball of his career in this stretch. Brown could have been in this conversation too if we were talking about the first 15 games of the year where he was really searching for it and he was trying to shoot his way into the conversation and he wasn't necessarily flowing and vibing. He's completely part of the band right now. Like Brown is absolutely playing connected, and so now it's kind of like that last one along. And again, Tatum's still having good games, but oftentimes those good games are when the shots just happen to fall versus a change in the style or picking up the pace and meeting the pace of everybody else, not holding on to the ball, and just kind of doing that. If you see the direction that it's going, you just want Tatum to be part of it as well, as opposed to, I'm going to get mine in my own way. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't seem to flow with what everyone else is doing at times. That's all.
Even Joe, and I think Joe can be his biggest defender at times. He's even given up a little bit, and I don't have the video on hand here, but I did have a talk with him pregame. Pick your spots with the pull-ups. That's effectively what Joe said. You have to take them, and I think we even understand it, John, as much as we don't love those shots. You have to take them for the gravity. And
to keep them honest, you have to. You can't just put your head down and go.
Yeah. But you don't need to take 11 in a game, as he sometimes will here, like he did in that Golden State game. Maybe you don't take it on the last play of the game. He tried to win the game against Detroit with that shot, and it went to overtime. So it's tough right now, and I really don't know what's going on with the shot. It's great tonight. It's great against the Clippers, but this is another season where his pull-up threes at the bottom of the guys shooting it at that volume, as you've brought up. I don't know what's going on there. It seems to become more and more of a trend every season. But then you look at him barreling through guys in the lane and drawing free throws, and you're like, maybe that's just his game. He's a power player. You know, Joe Sway and I have had these conversations at the games. As much as he tries to embody and almost model his game after Kobe, he's not. He's almost like, I hate to throw the name out there because it kind of has a bad connotation in terms of what he accomplished in his career. But Melo turned into that power forward type as his career went along. He had a great post game. He could really body guys. He had a nice shot, but it came and went. He really does have a Melo type game. Like, it's a very power forward offensive game. Like, he needs to body guys, get to the rim.
That's the thing is, like, with Tatum, the pull-up shot is fine, but it's always like, and I use as an example, a guy like Butler, you know, who's not a great shooter by any regard, but he knows how to get to his spot. And Tatum sometimes doesn't get to his spot. He kind of just takes whatever's there with the step back or the fade away because he's just decided that's his shot. That's not a good shot. But getting into, like I said, Jalen tonight, backing his way down into the post to get to a spot that he felt comfortable operating in is a different story. So Tatum, the two things he's got to do the most, not pound the ball, make sure, I mean, you know, if the ball gets in his hand in transition, he's walking it up and everyone's running. He's got to pick up the pace a teeny bit there, and then just simply get to your spots. You're absolutely fine to rise up and shoot over the top of people. You're 6'8", you got a super high release, and you're quick and twitchy, and you can create separation with your step back or whatever. You should absolutely be taking those shots. It's just too many of them are just really, really low percentage, and they are like hero shots in the sense of, like, when they fall, everyone on the broadcast and people on Twitter, oh, when Tatum's got that going, they're unstoppable. But the reality is, it's like I said, it's the golfer who shoots 95 every day, but then, you know, he nuts a 7-iron, you know, 6 feet from the pin and thinks that's who he is. Like, the percentage wise, they're bad shots. They're not going in. They're going in at a very low rate for him. So you got to know that and just get away from it. It's just knowing. That's all you got to do.
I think Kes said it well here in the chat. They got to play smarter, not harder. And I think that's what this regular season is going to be all about. You've made your accomplishments to a large degree here. And Jason said this after Friday or Thursday's game. You know, I've done a lot of stuff in my career so far already. And the championship's that big thing. And, you know, you want to see him do it, John, you know, more than say it. But the fact that he and Brown have said a lot of the right things this year has set a good tone for the team. And
they're getting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Intention wise, I think they're both going into games and, you know, each week with the right mindset in terms of what they need to do. And, you know, Joe's set some good tones for them in terms of his messaging throughout this year about doing less, sacrificing, you know, winning in different ways, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's resonating. But the biggest thing is that the two stars are embracing it, because if they weren't, you wouldn't be 26-6. You'd have a lot more rocky nights. You'd have a lot more inconsistency. And we're nitpicking, sure, because I think part of us, John, is scared that some of the things we've seen in recent playoffs pop up again. But at the same time, I think we can both recognize that, you know, the 2023 portion of the schedule here couldn't have gone much better for this group. You know, you're just thrilled with where they're at. They're healthy. They're playing together. They're taking care of business. They've had some show-stopping nights, you know, showing off what they can do. And they've improved drastically in crunch time. I think 11-5 in those spots to begin this year. So we'll nitpick because the expectation championship. And if they don't get there, I don't think we can just sit here and be like, how'd this happen? You know, that we see different ways that it might not happen here.
Everyone's got to do their part. Tatum's part is bigger than everybody else's because he's Jason Tatum. Therefore, the expectation and the responsibility is higher than everyone else's because he's Jason Tatum, which means there's going to be more nitpicking because he's Jason Tatum. The time of, like, leave him alone, guys, he's an all-star, it's over. It's a championship season. You must win it this year, and enough. That's it. So again, it's not criticism. It's Can you do it? There's still people out there who are dubious because you've seen
And
them wilt at the wrong times. And so it's there. This is the best team in basketball. It's the best team in basketball. There's no question about it.
and the role
they
guys.
and they should win. I'm not going to say easily, but they could. Like, they're that good. So
No,
I mean,
when you're healthy, when
yeah.
you have White, Holiday, and the bench playing like this,
they're that good.
A lot of things are going right now. And in the big picture, we've talked about how expensive and tough this team could be to keep together. So you don't have 10 years to do it here. It's now, or it's going to get more difficult in coming seasons, either because this team gets worse or other teams get better. They're in a really good spot right now, and they kind of blew it the last 2 years in really good positions. And the fact that they're in an even better position this year is kind of a miracle. So this is special what they have right now. You know, we kept throwing out the 2008 comparison, John, and I think more and more you do see just how they have this one really nice shot here, and the 08 team took advantage of it, and then they had issues in the years after that.
And
I
that
think
was
this
because
is really similar.
it's really a three-year window, and again, it'll be expensive, but it's a solid 3 years, and I think that 08 team had it as well. What people always forget, Garnett doesn't come down with a freak knee injury in 2009. That 2009 team was better than the 2008 team.
Yeah.
They were annihilating people. And then he goes up and he comes down hobbling, and everything changed. The entire trajectory of the franchise changed there because they could and should have, with a healthy KG, even aging, that core was going to win it again that year. No question about it. They were winning it that year. So they got to get it done. But we are going to wrap. It's been about an hour, and we've been going here. We said we'd go short, but you guys were hanging out. I need to do a quick round of thank yous to everybody. We'll start at the top with the guy, Nick Gelso, the founder, the visionary, the guy who put CLNS Media together. None of us would be here without him, so thank you, Nick. Happy New Year there as well. George Danello, the guy who keeps everything straight for us and makes sure that we act like adults. Happy New Year, George. Guy Neer, the guy who keeps the lights on by making sure that he's selling some of this stuff, this nonsense that we're putting out there to you guys. Guy sells it, okay, which is great. And it allows us to have sponsors, and it allows us to keep operating and delivering free content, which we love. Producers, Joey Capone, probably not watching, but that's totally fine. Super producer, Amit Bhattacharjee. He's everywhere. He's here right now. Amit, pop on and say hi. Pop on. Do you have a camera? He might not have a camera. Nah, he said nah. Amit does it all.
One day.
If I give out a season-long brownie, it goes to Amit every year. So nobody works harder here at CLNS Media. Nobody's more devoted and dedicated to what we do here and make sure that everything is out there in quality, which is great. And so again, if you see it, Amit had his hands on it. I guarantee it. He's literally like 3 different people, backbone of, he did ban you. Oh God. He's the backbone of CLNS. So thank you very much there. Jimmy Toscano, not here. My guy from back in the NBC days, obviously Josue Pavone, who's been a stalwart here at CLNS now for maybe going on a decade. Bobby Manning, who's been reporting since he was like a teenager on the Celtics for CLNS and other outlets, all grown up, Bobby, right?
Yes. Good to be here.
Yeah. All grown up. Who am I missing? Am I missing anybody?
Sherrod.
Oh, Sherrod is Sherrod. Sherrod's a legend. Sherrod, again, back in my NBC days, getting to work with Sherrod, it was always a pleasure. And the fact that I get to do that again is tremendous. I don't want to leave anybody out, and I hope that I didn't. But, last thank you to all of you guys out there who watch us and who support us and who spread the word. Great year. This could be the year, guys. So it's a good time to be on board with this and with us and kind of follow the ride here. And it's great.
And thanks to you, John. Someone's going to say it here.
Well, not really. But that's fine. Catherine had a super chat and I missed it. If I missed it, I apologize, Catherine. But again, yeah, thanks guys for hanging out.
I can't believe it's 2024. We started this thing in 2020. 4 years went by pretty fast here.
Yeah, it did. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm exhausted. I need a championship so I can retire. Yeah, you guys can pick the next host once we win this thing. We'll get it like a Drew replacement to come in. I'm Gorman. I'm on my way out.
We gotta have Drew on one night. Maybe he'll do one of the home games or something. He's a good guy.
Shout out to the chat for real. Yeah, we'll have Drew on.
He was pretty good tonight. What do you say? The king of the jam with the jelly? I was dying at that one. I think a Jalen finished inside or something. He was like, the king of the jam with the jelly.
Yeah.
He's pretty witty, man.
No, he's a talented kid. He really is. He's gonna be good. Blorp, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Happy New Year's to everybody, for real. We do appreciate you. Go out there, for those of you on the East Coast, and try to live it up for the next couple of hours and hang out and do your thing. Have a drink, kiss your loved ones, see if you can make it to midnight. We're back. When is it?
Tuesday, Oklahoma. This is where the Celtics gave up 150 and probably their worst loss last year. And this Thunder team's been really good. So I'm looking forward to that one. Tuesday night, I think 8 o'clock.
Tuesday 8. It's out there, and then they're back home, right?
Yep, back for the Jazz on Friday.
Great. Thunder's fun. That's a fun team. We're back here on Tuesday. Happy New Year to everybody. We will see you guys in 2024. Take care.